All right, here's a question. Actually, yeah, it's a question on YouTube. What's up, everybody? Hey, guys. Guy here. Glad you're here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be live after the Niners preseason game on Saturday. Just Kane commented on YouTube. I just don't understand how the conversation with the Niners went from the Niners have all the leverage to how do they not get bent over the barrel in such a short amount of time? I think this was on the video I did with Josh Dubow on Thursday, in which I said that the challenge for the Niners in a trade is that if they don't get 100 cents on the dollar for Aiyuk when they send him to the Steelers, if they were to send him to the Steelers, so if they get 80 cents on the dollar, in order to replace him with another receiver, they may have to turn around and overpay. So that's where don't get bent over a barrel comes from. Then Zach answered Just Kane and said, because people, Guy in Lombardi, reported what they want to happen and not what's going to happen. All right, so let's talk about who has the leverage, dun, 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 over the leverage. Here's where I stand with the Niners. Their leverage is as long as their tolerance. But you don't just have to hear from me. Let's hear what Michael Lombardi said on his podcast yesterday about the leverage over the leverage.
And then they've got to satisfy the 49ers in the trade. Because let's be clear here. Everybody thinks Aiyuk has all the leverage. He has some leverage. Mm-hmm. He has the leverage in determining what team he goes to. He doesn't have the leverage in making the 49ers say yes. Yeah. So, he doesn't want to go to New England. He did them a huge favor, right? He doesn't want to go there. So he says, okay, I'm not interested in that. No problem. You don't want to go there? You don't want to pay? They're offering you whatever it is. I want to go to Pittsburgh. Okay, great. Well, Pittsburgh's not giving us a receiver back that we want. So that doesn't. So we'll say no. We'll just keep saying no. We're going to say no. Until we satisfy our trade demands, why would we say yes? So they do have it. Look, they know they're not going to have the player. So at this point, what do we care? We don't have the player. I'll just keep saying no until I get the deal I want. Remember, the Steelers sending a first-round pick does them no good. It does them no good. This is kind of like you almost need this is almost like in the NBA where you need a third party to come in because some team has the assets to be able to trade that the Steelers don't. The Steelers' first-round pick could be somewhere between 18 and 32. That doesn't do the 49ers any good this year, right? It does them no good.
I interrupted a recording of Mike Lombardi. I agree with him. Remember, the 49ers are a team. This doesn't mean they're not going to trade him. I'm not saying that. But they're a team that kept Jimmy Garoppolo around until the bitter end, it looked like. Even though they didn't want him, they ended up using him. He ended up staying. They ended up working it out because they needed each other. It wasn't anything more than that. And then he got hurt. And then Brock Purdy took over, blah, blah, blah. But this idea that because he's not showing up, Brandon Aiyuk has the leverage over the 49ers. He has the leverage over the 49ers if he gets under their skin and gets them in a position where they view him as addition by subtraction, meaning he's a bad locker room guy. He's making Kyle Shanahan mad. Stop bro hugging me in front of the cameras. I can't look at him anymore. Get him out of here. Remember, and somebody asked me, they said, they made a comment, which I didn't grab it here, but they said something to the effect of, you're crazy if you don't think the 49ers, if Brandon Aiyuk says, okay, I'll sign your contract. You're crazy if you don't think you're drinking the Kool-Aid, if you don't think that they would just do that. Excuse me. And, because what I said was, if he says I want to sign the contract, he's gonna have to get in a room with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and they're just gonna have a conversation. I didn't say they wouldn't sign the contract. I'm just saying, I'm giving you some insight. There's ruffled feathers. They would get through it because it's the best thing for the team, just like they worked with Jimmy Garoppolo. I haven't seen Jimmy and Cabo with Shanahan lately. You're not going to see it, but they figured it out. I'm not saying they won't figure it out. They would figure it out. They 100% would figure it out, but it would require some humans getting in a room and talking. That's the point of that. So his best move is to do what he did the other day, which is walk around the field, become kind of a nuisance, try and become a distraction. Other than that, as Michael Lombardi said in that clip, and the commenter is referring to David Lombardi. I guess we should clarify that, not Michael Lombardi. That was the original YouTube comment. The audio you just heard was Michael Lombardi. No relation, I don't think. But unless they're getting a player back, if they get a player back, if they get a Mark Cooper back, like, well, we're not really getting full Aiyuk value maybe, but all right, we can get a player. We satisfy that. But if they're not getting players back, as Michael said, they have no incentive. Another comment here from YouTube yesterday is from Dustin. He says, okay, this was actually the comment I referred to. I do have it. It said, everyone's number is higher than the 49ers number because no one reasonably thinks they can go get a receiver for $4 or $5 million under the market. And if you think they wouldn't give him the same deal right this second, you need to lower your dosage of Niners Kool-Aid. Come on, man. Your guest seems to be one of the very few calling things as they are. He was very honest and reasonable. Josh Duval was great. We agree on that. If you don't think they would give him the same deal this second, you need to lower the dosage of Niner Kool-Aid. I just addressed that. I won't readdress it. But my insight and what I replied and said was, they will do the deal. I'm just giving you insight on kind of the status of the relationship. You can choose to accept it or ignore it. But let's focus here not on that, but the first line, which is everyone's number is higher than the Niners because no one reasonably thinks they can get a receiver for $4 or $5 million under market. Are the 49ers offering him $4 or $5 million under market? Josh Duval sent me today, because he's excellent at his job, this article from Over the Cap. When you look at NFL contracts, you're looking, most of you know this, at two websites, Over the Cat, or the one I know, is it SpotRack or Spotrac, SPOTRAC. Here we go. I'll read to you now. The receiver market is plagued with a number of contracts where the team used quote unquote real but really fake years to bloat the annual values of the contract so that the contracts would seem larger than they really were. Well, this is something that does happen from time to time across the league. This is the only position where it actually has widespread use. All right. Now, the writer here, Jason Fitzgerald, doesn't add because receivers are the most superficial of all the positions. I'm not saying that, but maybe that's what it's about. But he goes on. This began back in 2022 when A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill signed contracts with very large APYs, average per year. But in reality, they were much smaller. Okay, we were just talking about this yesterday with Devontae Adams. He's had a 5-year contract that averages $28 million a year. But in reality, the odds of earning the last 2 years of the contract are very slim, and the real contract is 3 years for $22.5 million. Right? We just talked about this yesterday. He's not getting this contract from the Raiders that he's on right now beyond this year. This is kind of it. All right. So let's go down to this chart that he created. This is really cool. For those of you listening, there's nothing better than a chart on podcast. So I'll try to keep it simple here. But the top 11 players of the position, he shows their real APY and their paper APY. The real APY is what they're actually, the real true value of the contract is, without inflated years on the back end that they aren't going to get. So as example, what makes Justin Jefferson an outlier is that his paper APY and his real APY, $35 million. AJ Brown, AJ's making $32 million a year. Well, not really. In reality, it's 28.6. Oh, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's making $30 million a year. Oh, not really. It's 28. Tyreek is 30. It's 27. Okay. So when you go through, and he has another chart here of how many games they've played the last 2 years, how many yards they have the last 2 years, and their yards per game, as a way to try to figure out where does Brandon Aiyuk fit into that group. At 71 yards per game the last 2 years, Brandon Aiyuk fits right in the middle of your group being Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Which Brown? St. Brown is the last name. So we get A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, favorite name in the league, DJ Moore. All right. So at 71.4 yards per game, it's less than St. Brown and Waddle. Now, this is I think the relevant part here. This is the part that, Parag is not doing any interviews. If he could speak publicly, this is probably what he said to Aiyuk. It maybe pissed him off. I don't know. Waddle is the high-end comp for him, and my guess would be that the Niners see Jalen Waddle's contract as a poor contract for Miami. That said, the salary difference is not too small to think that anything between $27.5 and $28.5 million would be a fair offer. So, you can point out that Michael Lombardi's son is an assistant coach on the 49ers now, and maybe that makes him biased. Michael Lombardi pointed it out himself in the podcast. I know my son's on the staff, and so maybe I'm biased. You can make that a consideration. But here is a very number-centric, over-the-cap contract evaluator saying the salary, I think anything between $27.5 and $28.5 million for Brandon Aiyuk is a fair offer. Okay, so I don't think the Niners deal is $4 to $5 million under market. It may be $4 to $5 million under market of the Patriots, not under market of the Patriots offer, which you didn't want. But it's not $5 million less than the Browns offer. And it's certainly not $4 to $5 million less than the Steelers offer, at least not in real money, right? Real money. Now, maybe they're not willing. The guaranteed money is really the one that's relevant. And my guess is it's kind of around the correct guarantee. So we'll see. I mean, maybe in the end, if it's just about mending fences, they mend fences and he takes a contract that he's happy with. I don't know. But, I say this a lot in the comments. I say it about the comments, and I want to continue to cultivate a world where you can say this type of stuff, disagree, have a little fun, that the disagreements are actually not that the disagreements are the opposite of the way people take things on the internet, which is you take everything that could be like 50-50 as somebody talking shit to you. And I prefer to take it as the kind of stuff that gets set in your group chat where it can be a little, it can be negative if you don't know each other, but you know each other, so you take it the good way. So that's how that's how I like, if we're being like, this is fine. I don't take it as like, this offends me. Somebody else said something. Well, whatever, who cares? That also did not offend me, and I had fun with. And generally, if you have fun with it, I know people have fun back. Like people tend to talk. This is one of the problems with communication in text on the internet. People tend to communicate, especially like us, the way that we would communicate in the group chat, but it gets interpreted as, thing is more angry than it is. So I commit that when it comes to the YouTube comments, I will not interpret. I will interpret as if it's the group, as if it's a little too much coffee, as if it's the group chat, and maybe you do the same back. A comment from Callie, a guy. The longer this goes on, does that mean we can reconcile with BA and come back to the negotiation table? The longer the Niners have a hard line with the Steelers, yes. I read New England turned down $32 million from New England, or Aiyuk turned down $32 million from New England. Yeah, it might have been a little more, but you're about right. Mr. Michael said, same with Robbie Gould, who said, I want to be traded to the Bears. Too bad, said John Lynch. Matt says, I don't even quite understand this, but it seems like a funny thing to read. Never seen a team that hates their media and reporters as much as us Steelers fans. Y'all come close. I love it. Oh, that's a comment, I think, to the comments. Badger says, trade him. Don't need to sink $60 million per year into the wide receiver position. I think the Niners financially, here's the thing. The Niners, this is different than Bosa in this sense. Bosa is a top, whatever you want to call him, 3-5-2 player in the NFL, especially if you go non-quarterback. So the Niners knew if they paid more than they wanted to pay, they were getting the elite of the elite and a great, with a capital G, player. they're not willing to do that for Brandon Aiyuk. They're not willing to say, we have to have this guy no matter what, blank check. Like they may, in the end, kind of blank check Trent Williams. We'll see. Trent's out there golfing saying, I don't need this. But they're not going to do that for Aiyuk, and until they're getting a player back that's going to help them, the only leverage he has is pissing them off, getting them to do something they don't want to do. But you think Kyle Shanahan, you think they kept Jimmy Garoppolo around 2 years ago because they just loved him? Kyle just didn't want to separate from Jimmy. No. That guy was thrown behind the bleed. I mean, that was that weirder than this? I would argue kind of, yeah. This is different because they get this whole trade thing playing out, and Aiyuk is more in demand potentially in a trade, even though, it's not like there's 10 teams right now. There's one, but he's more in demand than Jimmy was. He's a more elite player than Jimmy was. But, and think about that. Aiyuk's a more elite player with a higher trade demand than Jimmy, and they kept Jimmy around through all the weirdness. Lee says YouTube chat can be negative? ? I've been on the internet since it started. I'm unfazed. I feel very lucky that I was on social media when it started. I've seen it all, man. Scott says, quote, want in one hand, shit in the other. See which one fills up first. There's your answer. Rick says, have you had breakfast already? I did. I had a good breakfast this morning. Good, delicious breakfast to start the day. Good, Rick. I'm glad to hear it. Yes, I had 2 hard-boiled eggs. All right. I got to run, but a couple other things very quickly I want to say. One, the Niners play a preseason game on Saturday. To quote the ESPN voiceover guy, what to watch for? Cody Schrader getting like 15 carries. Malik Mustafa. D Winters. I'd say that's a big one. Like, is one of the young linebackers going to step up and take Devondre Campbell's spot? Because the Niners could use the athleticism. And, the Niners 2024 draft class right now, Ricky Pearsall, nah. Cowing's been practicing for a week. Isaac Guerendo's not healthy. So, Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green, will he be a corner in the future? I mean, there's not urgency with him. You don't need him right now. But, if there's an injury, maybe the Niners cornerback depth will take a hit because they have so many guys they like. So, does Ambry Thomas end up somewhere else? Whatever. Mason Pline, one of the tight ends, that sort of thing. The other thing was, I only have a second for this, but God, I love talking about 2 things out of the NFC East, Mike McCarthy and Nick Sirianni. And I've said my piece about Mike McCarthy over the years. Legitimate coach. Sirianni, did you guys see the story this week? Him and Jalen Hurts, they prefer not to keep those 2 guys, have them in a room together alone. It's better if there's another person there for their communication. I've said it from the beginning. It feels good to be right about this one. If your offensive head coach can't call plays and everyone knows it, you got a problem. And so they've got a problem. It's not getting better. They've got the wrong guy. Maybe he's a guy. They got the wrong guy. I heard this. Well, the good news with Sirianni, he was really accountable. He came out and said this year, I got to be better in some facets. That shit, people love accountability without correction. They praise accountability without also including correction. Accountability is good, especially sincere, authentic accountability. It's necessary. It is necessary. But there's a second part to accountability, which is correction. So, when a receiver drops a ball or doesn't extend over the middle and does the chest pat, my bad. If he's a guy that always catches the ball, you go, oh, accountability. If he goes, my bad. And it's like, no, bro, you always make that mistake. You always run the wrong route. You always drop the ball in traffic. Then your my bad is hollow. So we'll see. We'll see on the accountability. Always the accountability. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb is retweeting Jerry Jones quotes. My bad. My bad. Hey guys, real quick, couple other things I want to mention. Brought to you by the CIRCA Sports Contest. A lot going on there. You go to Nevada, you play from anywhere. Visit circasports.com. Click on contest. 2 different contests: CIRCA Million, $6 million in guaranteed prizes, and the CIRCA Survivor. You pick a game a week, $10 million in guaranteed prizes there. Last year, 4 winners split $9.2 million, $2.3 million each. It was the largest legal football contest in history. And now the pot's even bigger, $10 million. That's $1,000 per entry. 1 game, straight up every week. Try to go undefeated. And then the CIRCA Million is 5 games against the spread every week. The winner takes home $1 million, and last place gets $100,000. Enter Nevada. Sign up with a proxy at CIRCA Sports. Play from anywhere. Circasports.com. Click on contest. Also, receive word from my guy Steve that hats are en route to me. The hats that I will supposed to get them next week. The Hey Guys and the 262s. I will photograph them. I will get them up on the website, and then we'll start selling them. Steve's been awesome. So him and his team are doing great stuff. So to sign up to get notified when hats go on sale, click on the QR, do the thing, the QR code up in the corner, or just go to heyguy.co. That's heyguy.co. And there's a form there. If you want the updates, you have to, there's a box that says like, sign me up for marketing. You have to click the box. If you don't click the box, it's super annoying. Squarespace hasn't, like, guys, don't, no, I'm not sending these people spam. Like, don't make them do the extra step. But you got to click the box so that you are then in the, when I do like, all right, send out this marketing, quote unquote, marketing material, that you get it. Otherwise, you're opted out. I've talked to them about this. But anyway, okay. That's that. I got to roll. Have a great Friday, a great weekend. Maybe if something happens, you know where to find your boy. Hit that like.